it in or me?
I'll do it. Just let me know when it says it's broadcasting the meeting so I could turn down the volume on YouTube.
You good to go.
All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in. New edition of the Batter Up podcast, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood, here on the Sports Insanity Network. Mike Rifkin, the old ops guy, with you. Happy weekend. It is Friday, September 20th, 2024. Mr. Old Ops Guy, how are we?
You know, more nervous than a man in a dark cave seeing eyes of bats.
Uh, you're right. You have a right to be nervous. We are legitimately entering the final week of the 2024 Major League Baseball season that has had its ups, its downs, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself about. That's what it's all about. But we start with the biggest story of 2024, and that is Shohei Ohtani, who yesterday against the Miami Marlins went 6 for 6, hit 3 homers, drove in 10 runs, scored 4 runs, stole a couple of bases, and became the first member of the 50-50 club on top of Mark. That also clinched the Dodgers a berth in the playoffs for a 12th consecutive year.
This is unreal. You know, in greatly said, records are meant to be broken or created. And from the start of baseball, of course, records were done after the first year. It's a record, no matter what. And then records get broken. We know there are certain records that are never going to be seen, broken. This one's going to be a tough one as well. Congratulations to a man who absolutely crushed them all when it was less than 58 miles an hour to get this honorable achievement. Also, even on the replay at third, I know he was safe. I looked at that in a lot of angles. I thought he was out, but he
The
was safe.
ball beat him by a mile.
Yeah, I just was very surprised he was called safe. But then when you saw the back angle, his foot did get in. Congratulations to Shohei Ohtani. What are you going to do next? Win 20 games, go 60-60 next year?
Well, that's the other thing we have to talk about for a second, because the Dodgers, through all their pitching issues, have discussed the idea of Ohtani pitching in the playoffs. So, what would be the cherry on top of this season than having Shohei Ohtani pitch in the playoffs? Now, if I were the Dodgers, I would not pitch him in the playoffs just because of the investment you made in him.
Well, you're talking we're talking $750 million. This man had Tommy John surgery. Down that most as for pitchers, they're not going to play because all they're doing is focusing on getting that UCL fixed, getting it strengthened, and going through the proper requirement. Well, Shohei Ohtani is not only doing that, he's an offensive monster. As much as I might get feedback from a couple of guys at the network who are probably listening right now. Shohei Ohtani is the Japanese Babe Ruth, not Ichiro.
Well, maybe
Sorry.
Ichiro wasn't meant to be that. He was just put the ball in play, and we go from there. But I'll say this: Shohei Ohtani has become the most watched see guy, forgetting just Major League Baseball, in sports. You will stop what you're doing to watch what Shohei Ohtani's doing. He is the most, to steal a phrase from Stephen A. Smith, he is the most box office player in all of sports.
Is there a show greater in Major League Baseball
No,
as a
no,
player? No.
no. Listen, I understand the people who will argue Aaron Judge. I do. I totally get it. Here's the difference. Shohei Ohtani next year is going to pitch. And he's going to DH. And he's going to hit 30 homers. And he's probably going to win 15 ball games, give or take. But to do what he did this year, 50 homers for anybody is a great year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you replace pitching with Shohei Ohtani? Oh, I'm going to steal 50 bases. Instead of using my arm to pitch, I'm going to use my legs. That's going to help this team out. And it's a team that actually needed this because the bottom of their lineup all year struggled mightily. That team is so top heavy with Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, and Teoscar Hernandez. And if you want to get into Will Smith, we can get into Will Smith. But Will Smith hasn't been relevant since he slapped Chris Rock.
And that's very true. And as a comment from our great buddy down in Texas from Sweep the League, Rudy Campos, shout out to them down there as they listen to us. And
Rudy.
As he says, what's up, guys? Do not use Ohtani as a pitcher at all. He says keep him as he is.
I don't disagree. You made a $700 million investment. Albeit you're only paying him the 2.1 for the next few over the contract, which ludicrous. And I ain't even talking about the rapper. But Ohtani is you can't hamper him with the pitching. I understand what Dave Roberts is thinking. I understand what the organization's thinking. Can't do it. Can't do it. Listen, you're going to have to rely on guys who've been banged up most of the year or ineffective. And as much as that blows if you're the Dodgers, you can't script injury.
And as I was calling, as I said, it wasn't Ichiro as the Japanese Babe Ruth, and it was more Ohtani. Our great guy put it really the way it should have been said. Ichiro was Tony Gwynn, where Ohtani is more of a hybrid version of Barry Bonds and Babe Ruth. Only player 500. He's not wrong.
No.
So that's the next goal for Ohtani. But the question here comes the funny thing. It took Barry Bonds X amount of years. I don't have that stat in front of me to reach 500. With the way Ohtani is going, he could eclipse that by the end of his career.
So let me just find out the Ohtani numbers before we.
And I actually like that comparison using Ichiro as Barry Bonds. I'm not Barry Bonds, sorry, Tony Gwynn, as the fact that what Tony Gwynn was, he hit home runs, whatever, but he was a damn good, probably one of the best baseball players to swing a bat that I ever saw.
So Ohtani right now has 222 homers and 137 steals. So I'm not putting 500. What I'll do is if he can get to 300, that would be the grouping I'd like for him to get to. But you also got to take into account he right now. Hold on. Okay, he turned 30 in July, so the stolen bases may come down a little bit because once you get over 30, you lose some of that.
Yeah,
acceleration.
But that was the downfall also for Bonds as he was getting in. But he was stealing bases at a high number.
But Bonds also didn't have to steal bases as he got older because every ball he hit it landed in McCovey Cove.
I remember when McCovey Cove opened, and the amount of people that were in kayaks and pontoon, whatever, to get that first ball.
Yeah, they hop in the kayaks, and they would. Oh,
tell me another better way to retrieve a home run ball in baseball, and I'll call you a liar.
Yeah, I don't think there is one because the
Uh,
only other one I remember the old Ranger ballpark outdoors when they'd hit the ball to center field and the people would run from the
oh,
crowd onto that grass to try to grab that ball.
yeah. Or there was always Houston with the ramp.
But yeah, it was fun to watch the people at McCovey Cove go for it.
Oh yeah, I mean, baseball is America's pastime for a reason because we make it ours, but we take it to levels that other countries don't understand.
Mm. Yeah, so Ohtani, first player ever to reach 50-50. He locked up the National League MVP award, although I really don't think there was ever a doubt he wasn't going to. But now
It,
here's the thing. For the first time in his career, we're going to get to watch Shohei Ohtani in the postseason.
and that's something I think we've all been wanting to see because let's face it, when Shohei Ohtani came on the scene back in the amount of money he spent on boxes that year, when he came on the scene, all anybody wanted to see him do is get a championship.
The biggest stage we've ever seen him on so far was the WBC.
That's it. I was about to say, yeah,
And he struck out Mike Trout
yeah.
to win it. Now it's a whole different animal.
Mm-hmm.
It's the postseason. The Dodgers are supposed to be the team that wins it all, just based on the amount of money they spent. Injuries aside, they were the preseason favorite. They're one of the favorites still, despite the injuries. It's showtime, literally.
And it's not. He's not the only factor, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the biggest difference here. Is he's on a team where he's protected not only in the beginning of the lineup, but two spots behind it. I'm not going to comment on the lower levels as they've had their
Well,
ups and downs. So
you got Betts, you got Freeman, you got Teoscar Hernandez, and Will Smith. That's the top five. Gavin Lux has had a nice second half near the bottom.
yes,
The
yes,
key to this whole lineup is Max Muncy. If Max Muncy can get hot, that changes the outlook of this lineup because now all of a sudden I can go Shohei, Betts, Freeman, Hernandez, Smith, Muncy, Lux, and then however they want to go 8-9, they go 8-9.
right,
That
right.
just lengthens out their lineup even more so than it already is. But
Yeah,
as we
I
covered,
mean, the Dodgers are like I might put it perfectly, it's an entirely different animal of a ball team. I mean, you're talking about of great teams that have stepped into the World Series spotlight. They're not there yet, but if they do, they will be ranked amongst it.
they are the monsters of Major
Yes,
League Baseball. That's who they are.
good, nice play. This
I
is
know my
why we
space.
call him the pun master because he comes
I
up
know
with
my
things.
Space Jam. I know
Yes, he
my
comes up
Space
with
Jam.
things on the fly.
All right, so the Dodgers have clinched. They are one of two teams in the National League to have clinched a playoff berth, along with the Milwaukee Brewers, who won the National League Central for the second consecutive year. And listen, we said it before with Ohtani locking up MVP. National League Manager of the Year, I think he's been locked up now too by Pat Murphy.
Absolutely.
Because I think I could sit here in spring training. I don't know what the Brewers are, but I'm
Well,
not going to pick
especially.
them to win this division.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
there.
that's
Especially with after the leavings of David Stearns to the Mets, Craig Counsell left. Nobody knew what was going to be
Corbin Burns got traded to Baltimore.
right, and then unfortunately, the man who was having such a
Yeah,
resurgent
Yelich.
year, Christian Yelich, goes down with something that I actually can understand the back injury.
Yeah,
Trust me, I've had 14 surgeries, the 15th coming. I felt horrible. What a resurgence he was having, too.
yeah. And think about the guys who are there who have contributed. Rhys Hoskins was a guy I was begging
Yes.
for the Mets to sign. Now they wound up signing JD Martinez. That's a
Let's
whole
too.
nother conversation, which was fine. But Rhys Hoskins, awesome year. Jackson Churio, who should be in the conversation for National League Rookie of the Year, but he won't be because of Paul Skeens and Jackson Merrill. But he's 2020.
Yes.
They don't even call him Barbara Walters. He's 2020. Willie Adames is having a phenomenal walk year. And then they're the Cleveland Guardians of the National League because that bullpen is so darn good. And by the way, they didn't have Devin Williams until July.
Correct. Correct. I mean, the hats off to the Milwaukee Brewers on another fantastic season. As I said, I'm sad that it's Christian Yelich will not be able to be a part of it. I'm sure we know he's there, he's helping out in the various ways, but he's not.
He's rooting on the boys,
right? But he's not physically contributing, and we all know what that is like. The question becomes: what are the Milwaukee Brewers going to be in the postseason against teams like Philly, the Dodgers? I'm taking top teams. I'm not taking wild card right now.
Sure.
Philly, the Dodgers, top teams like those.
I think they can compete with those teams. Now, the problem is they haven't done it in the past. But now that, listen, there's something about them that I kind of just like. They fly under the radar, and they're really good at flying under the radar. Now the spotlight's on. How do some of these young guys perform? By the way, most of these young guys were a part of this team last year.
Right.
But they have the one thing you can't teach. You can't teach speed. And the Brewers could steal bases with the best of them, with Bryce Terang and Garrett Mitchell. They like to run. And they can pitch. This is going to be they're a very interesting team. By the way, if they wind up with the best record in the National League, it's a moot point because they'll have home field throughout, which would be great for them. But just to point this out, because they were – hold on.
Yep.
So they were 44-31 at home. That's what they are now. They're 44-34 on the road. So they've played well wherever they go.
And Milwaukee is just, I hate to say they're a toss of the coin, but there's times they're 50-50. They're either, I mean, technically.
A raffle ticket.
Thank you. It's like you're betting on a team that that has the talent and can do the work, but it still leaves you with an empty feeling in your stomach.
Yeah, so the Brewers and Dodgers in the National League. The next team to get in the National League will be the Philadelphia Phillies, who I think with their next win, they're in the playoffs. I don't know what their number is on the National League East, but they're closing in on that too. Yeah, they'll probably get it this weekend at Citi Field. While they're
you had to say it there. You couldn't just say that we're going to get it on the road. You had to actually mention where.
Well, that's where they are. I
don't give a shit.
Listen. Maybe we could be Bon Jovi and the Mets sweep them in this 4-game set, and that puts the Mets 2 games behind the Phillies. You want me to say it that way?
Great. Then I'm going to be almost Harry Carey every day. Wonderful.
But by the way, Major League Baseball, I'm going to do something that most of my wrestling friends will understand. There was this great gimmick by Chris Jericho, who is one of the all-time
I've heard of him.
greats. He had a gimmick called the List of Jericho.
Is that like being on Sheldon's list?
Yeah, kind of. If you messed with him or did something to him, he'd put you on a list.
Gotcha.
It's like being on Santa's naughty list kind of deal. So Major League Baseball tonight decided that the Met-Philly game, which has high playoff implications, well, fans of those teams cannot watch that game on their local networks because it is an Apple TV game. Are you kidding me? We are in September 20th. The Philadelphia Phillies and the New York Mets are in a playoff race. And if I don't have Apple TV, I can't watch the game tonight. Bad enough that I have to put up with the crap that is the ESPN Sunday night game on Sunday night. And I got to listen to David Cohen talk about spin rate and Eduardo Perez talk about how he talked to a guy earlier in the day thinking he's Chris Collinsworth. Like, Jesus Christ. An Apple TV game? Listen, if you were to say, hey, you can watch those games on those local networks, but it'll be the Apple TV broadcast, that's fine. That is fine by me. But I should be able to watch the New York Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies play tonight.
Yes. I see Mike is being nice. You see, he has a little smile on the face. He's being calm. Here's my answer to everybody, and you're going to get the old ops guy answer because I come from the old universe. So I don't know Mike, I don't know how to work the YouTube machine. So wherever the explicit word is, I'm making that note now. Go
I
fuck
don't know
yourself,
that.
Apple TV.
Don't say anything because I don't know YouTube.
No. I'm
just learning.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying. Go fuck yourself, Apple TV.
No. You see, you're blaming Apple. I'm blaming that stupid idiot Rob Manfred.
Well, yes, I know, but I have to blame the other side for winning the bidding war, whatever it was. To be all honest, Rob Manfred can go take a walk off a short plank with a few other people I know. I'll even build the plank.
So
this is a ridiculous option. If it's in the middle of the summer, where it is not a game that is meant, and that's not fair to say, where it's
a game in April.
Whether it's a game at the beginning of the season or at least a game that's right after the All-Star break.
Sure.
Okay, fine. Not when you're in the last 2 weeks of fucking baseball and you got the NL wildcard race is starting to stack up like a sandwich.
You got 4 teams fighting for 3 spots.
Yep, and thank God the Mets hold the tiebreaker against the Diamondbacks. As Mike
and they hold it against the Padres. Sure, that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. So Rob Manfred, to finish off the point, Rob Manfred, you know what happens? You know what happens, Rob Manfred, when you do something stupid and you look like Voldemort from Harry Potter? You know what happens, Rob Manfred? I don't have a pen. Oh, I do actually have a pen. You just made the list. Shout out the GOAT, Chris Jericho.
And Sheldon Cooper, because I really don't do wrestling.
Listen, turning to the Face Turn podcast, we should have one coming soon. Maybe tonight. I haven't decided. That is just blasphemy. That game is on Apple TV. All right.
And so one quick comment just to tie it into it, it's not the first time we've seen this happen. We saw this during football season last year with Amazon and other channels getting games, forcing people to subscribe to it to see it. It's not right.
By the way, Tim Cook and Apple, you're the reason why Apple the fruit is overrated. Android man for life. All right. So as we mentioned, Dodgers, Brewers, they're in the National League. In the American League, the first couple of teams into the playoffs include the New York Yankees and the Cleveland Guardians. By the way, the only team there are 3 teams eliminated in the American League, and one of them is the Chicago White Sox, but that's a whole nother conversation. So the Yankees are in the playoffs, as are the Cleveland Guardians. Shout out the Guardians just because, again, what they've gone through.
Shout out Andres Jimenez, my favorite player on the Guardians. So
Jose Ramirez, I love the man, and I know he's 30 and 100 every year. Yeah. He's still the most underrated player in baseball.
I couldn't agree with you more on that, but I mean, I watched Andres Jimenez come up in the Mets organization. I loved watching him when he played. I understood the trade. I don't regret the trade. I just happen to root for him on the Guardians.
No regrets.
No.
Listen,
not even one letter.
Here's the thing on the Yankees, and it's the same thing as the Dodgers. We knew you were going to get there. Now it's about what you do when you get there.
You know, Mike and I are both Mets fans, and neither one of us really shout out Yankees, whatnot. Congratulations to Aaron Judge on a hell of a season. I'm not going to take it away from him.
Yep.
But you want to know who I think deserves the tin? Is Carlos Rodon. After
A
everything
nice
he
bounce
did,
back year.
great bounce back here. I'm sorry, he did. I'm not a Yankee fan. I wasn't even a Heat fan when he was in San Francisco. But what a return year for him.
Yeah, very good bounce back. Here's going to be the interesting thing. If the Yankees play in that wild card series, who are the three? You're going to go Cole and Rodon. Who starts game 3? Is it
Has to be
Stroh?
Cortez.
Oh, you're going to go Cortez? Okay.
Has to be Cortez. I think it's more important, and I know this is going to be hard to say. I think more important that the Yankees make it out of the first round than anything.
Well, here's going to be the interesting thing. 9th inning of a tight game. Can you rely on Clay Holmes?
Ooh. As many a times I never wished I had a Yankee fan in here to actually rebut that. I wish Dan or Bill were here right now, even Eric Ford. Mike is putting out a very good point because it brings me to a flashback of when 9th inning used to come in and Armando Benitez used to come out for the Mets. One of two things were going to happen. He was going to strike him out or he was giving up a home run. That's all you knew. And you rely on Clay Holmes. I mean, I like what he's done. He's a good pitcher.
He's had an awful year.
He's just not consistent.
I haven't relied on a whole.
That was the word I was looking for. He hasn't been consistent. So to answer Mike's question, I don't believe you can.
I haven't relied on a Holmes since Priest Holmes. So I'm just
shout out Kansas City Chiefs. Wow, that took me too long to remember.
Oh, listen, I'm very curious to see how the Yankee bullpen looks in the playoffs. And here's going to be the other part of this. Outside of Judge and Soto, who's going to be the bat that steps up?
The person who I'm sorry, you were finishing.
No. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, the person I've been watching over, mind you, Mike's like having a small heart attack because I've actually been watching Yankee games. When stuff gets closer to the end of the season, I like watching certain games just to see where the intensity is. Gleyber Torres has been on a tear in the second half of the season. Nothing monstrous. I mean, we're not talking 50 home runs or anything, but he's been solid. I don't think he's your answer, but I think he's going to be a catalyst. I think the person who's going to return, I got to meet him. I got to watch him play in the minors. Mr. Anthony Volpe.
Yeah.
He knows what the deal is. I've met the kid. And it was an honor to meet him. And I thank the Hudson Valley Renegades for making that happen. Shout out Steve Kleiner for making that happen. And besides professionalism, you can see the competitiveness in his eyes. He wants to win. So I look at for me Torres and Volpe. Go ahead, Mike.
Also, shout out Renegade, the song by the band Styx. Great jam.
Good song. Yeah, good song.
Well, listen, I may look like a youth, but I know my 80s music.
I'm sorry, did you say youth?
Yeah, I know. It's a word you probably haven't heard a lot of over the years.
I'm sorry. Once in a while, we got to throw a movie joke in once in a while. He gets the wrestling jokes. I get the movie jokes.
All right. So I agree with you. I think Volpe's a guy they're going to need. They're also going to need Anthony Rizzo. That's the one guy. Listen, Stanton, you know what he is. He's home run or bust. Anthony Rizzo's a guy who was so big in the Cubs winning in 16. He has experience. That's a guy. I kind of wonder if he just turns it on here at the end.
I mean, when Anthony Rizzo was a free agent, I knew there was no way he was coming to the Mets because the Mets at that time had pretty much locked Pete Alonso was locked in at the point, so there was no reason for it, except for the fact of the DH, but we knew Rizzo wanted to play the field. I thought it was a great signing for the New York Yankees, especially because that was a position they were so lacked in. Unfortunately, he missed, what was it, just almost under 3 months?
He's missed a lot of time. He's been back, but yeah, he missed a lot.
Yeah, he missed about 3 months, and anybody will tell you that's an off season for players. And even for a seasoned veteran like him, it takes time to get back on track and get back in the field. But I agree with Mike. I think he's the bat that's going to go right between Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, whether it be 2-3 or 3-4. That's going to be your 2-3-4 in some combination.
Well, I think he's going to be the guy behind Stan. That's how I would line it up. All right. So yeah, the Yankees are in, as are the Cleveland Guardians. They made it in off the back of their bullpen, and we talked about Ramirez and Jimenez before. Josh Naylor's had a really good year too. The next team probably in for the American League will probably be the Houston Astros. By the way, that's the one team no one wants to see in the playoffs.
Barefoot and all.
That was the funniest thing.
Come on. If I didn't mention that, if we said Houston,
listen, if I'm Jose Altuve, I might just play the game barefoot from now on. That's what I thought of that. But yeah. And then we got interesting race. We talked about the National League wild card. The American League wild card is just as it's just as intense because we got the Orioles, Royals, and Twins, and the Detroit Tigers.
It makes me sick, and I know it's just the way things play out. Don't get me wrong, that the Orioles are a wild card team.
This is what makes me more sick, because the Baltimore Orioles did this to themselves when the Yankees were having that 2-month period where they couldn't find their way out of a paper bag. The Orioles were not playing well, and now they've decided to make their own bed, and they're laying in it now because they're not playing well now. They have to figure this thing out. Otherwise, it's a long off season in Baltimore because they failed at the deadline and they're failing again.
That's the key. Besides failing now, the deadline was the key point, Mike.
Trevor Rogers, are we serious?
By
the way, they just designated Craig Kimbrell for assignment.
Saw that yesterday.
By the way, I'm just throwing this out there. If I'm the New York Mets, I'd think about it. I would think about grabbing Craig.
Absolutely not. Jesus Christ.
Superstar.
There we go. The falsetto I never had. No, when I saw that, I was like, did he get injured? So I was looking at him. No injury. No, he's had a fall off, last couple of months. He hasn't been.
He's also 37 years old or whatever he is.
That too. But I'm going with the word experience.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to pitch every game. He doesn't come out one game.
I trust him more than I trust a lot of other people in the bullpen.
When the Mets lost Drew Smith, I thought they were going to go deadly after bullpen. And the bullpen has held together pretty well as of lately with Edwin Diaz back. But
you hold your breath every time someone not named Edwin Diaz throws a pitch.
Such as Reed Garrett.
Danny Young.
We can do this all day. Let's move on.
Oscar Brazaban.
Tyler McGill.
Armando Benitez Jr.
He did pitch an amazing game the other day. I will give him that.
By the way, the Mets also might be getting Mr. Kodai Senga back.
Well, see, that's where I was hoping you were going to lead into that, because I have a report here. So Kodai Senga's been down in Port St. Lucie and has also been moved around into the spring minor league area, whatever you want to call it. They are calling him 95% ready, but he will not pitch before the playoffs.
So, from what I've read, he wants to throw an inning at AAA Syracuse this weekend.
That's the next
step,
that
and then they go from there
to see if he can actually get that arm going. And if it's declared, fine. You'll have Kodai Senga for the playoffs, but not as a starting pitcher. I doubt it.
I wonder something, but I'm going to wait till the playoffs come and then I can bring it up. Yeah. If the Mets get there, otherwise it becomes a moot point, but we could talk about that at a later date.
Correct.
Some series to pay attention for this weekend going into next week. Mets, Phillies are going to complete their 4-gamer this weekend. Then the Mets will go to Atlanta to play the Braves in really what is a rematch of what happened in 2022 without the division
Correct.
being on the line.
Correct.
And the Mets will have their big 3 lined up. It looks like it'll be Manaea, Peterson, and Luis Severino going in those 3. And the Braves do have Ozzie Albies back. He was activated today.
Yeah, big shout out to him. What a small player, but does great things on the field.
He's out. He's Altuve for the Braves.
You know what? That's a fair enough statement. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Ozzie Albies, but
yeah, I got no issues with Ozzie Albies.
This, yes, this Mets Philly series. I mean, Mike and I were talking, and we both agreed. It's like we love 4 out of 4, of course. Who wouldn't? But we both said if we got 2 out of 4 here, and we could just keep level, we'd be happy. We've gotten that, so that's fine. Now here comes the big problem. You're not at home. You're going to the one stadium that hates the New York Mets more than any other team in baseball. And let me tell you, when the Atlanta Braves fans show up, it gets noisy and it breaks concentration. But mind you, it does flow both ways. It can fuck with the Braves as well, But Braves fans, I compare to Eagles fans in NFL.
Well, here's going to be the interesting thing. The Mets starting pitching has been really, really, really good. And just looking at the schedule, it does look like the Mets will get Chris Sale on the Wednesday game.
Good. Hopefully they'll rock him.
And then Thursday doesn't say who the Braves will have pitch. And Tuesday will be Schwellenbach.
The key is what Milwaukee will do in those last 3 games.
Right. That's what we're looking ahead to. But here's the other thing. The Mets starting pitching's been really good. Talked about the bullpen before. The Met offense is coming to life, led by the 2 guys who need to lead the charge without Francisco Lindor, and that's Brandon Nimmo and Pete Alonso. Yeah. And by the way, I do want to say something about Pete Alonso, because Joel Sherman had that story in the Post where Mendoza and Stern spoke to the team. And Pete Alonso was the only player who spoke and said, boys, let's get it. That's the sign of a guy who does not want to
leave. Pete Alonso, the polar bear, the New York Met. Look, nothing against Francisco Lindor. I love the guy. I loved him in Cleveland too. Pete Alonso is the face of the New York Mets. Francisco Lindor is the captain. That's how I put it. It might be different from other ways around, but Mike hit the nail on the head when saying that the 2 guys, obviously we knew one had to be Alonso, but Nimmo was the correct answer, because when you don't have to have Nimmo hitting 5-6 home runs a week. Nimmo does it with his legs, and he does it with straight line drives.
Yep.
They keep this up and can just trudge along.
All right. So let's have the Phillies and the Braves. American League really quick. The Tigers, they're going to play the Orioles this weekend. And then next week, they will be playing the Rays. Next weekend, the Tigers end the season with 3 with the White Sox. So the Detroit Tigers, pretty good.
Can you imagine the Tigers sneak in some way because of that?
They're tied with the Twins. By the way, the Twins are going to play the Red Sox, and then they play the Marlins. So,
all right. So they both have a kind of similar schedule left over with a hard trunk and a softie.
The Orioles play the Tigers, and then they go to the Bronx and play the Yankees. So the Orioles, who are still alive in the National League, American League East, they got a chance to cut into that. Well, the Yankees are going to play the A's and then the Orioles, but um, let's see. Let's keep going here for just a second. We probably got a couple more. The Mariners, they're going to play the Rangers this weekend, and then they play the Astros.
And I don't know if you were watching the Mariners game. Don't worry, on time. We're okay. If you're watching the Mariners game, the play the other night where the bat got let go of the hand and J Rod went to get out of the way,
Yep.
but the ball was in play. I saw it and I'm yelling, throw it.
I'm looking at that and I go, if there's a play that sums up the Mariner choke job any more than that, I'd like to see it. I just like that. That was, but they get the Rangers this weekend at Texas. Then they go to Houston to play the Astros next week. That's a huge series. D-backs and Brewers this weekend. Then
That's a bigger series than most people realize.
Yeah. The Diamondbacks then play the Giants next week. The Brewers will play the Pirates. How about Padres Dodgers next week? The Padres could still win the National League West. They are only I'm still on wild card standings. That is my apologies, America.
You're allowed to apologize once. Too many times, it's a sign of weakness.
4 games. They are 4 games behind the Dodgers.
You know, between Mike and I, we got a good 60 years worth of baseball knowledge between the two of us. And I've been racking my brain for the last 3 months, and I'm going to ask Mike this question. Have you seen an more exciting end and close ending to a season in a long time?
Okay. The only one I'll answer with was, I believe it was 2012 or 13 when the Red Sox collapsed and the Rays caught them in game 162 when they beat the Yankees after the Yankees were up like 9-0 in that game. And the Cardinals caught the Braves. That's the only thing I'll put this up to. But it's why baseball adding that third wild card, I think, was so important for the game. It makes more teams important down the stretch. Look at the Pirates, for example. The Pirates were in this thing till post All-Star break, and then they fell off the face of the earth. Let me rephrase that. They walked the plank. So it's a good thing for baseball. It doesn't allow teams to tank.
Right. And it's not like in baseball, it's not like in football, you have the worst record, you get the first round draft pick. That's not always how it works out. All I'm going to say is, let's go baseball. Football's on now. You can check us out on Sunday Sidelines, Sunday morning. We're live for that. But this is baseball, baby. This is what fuels America. We tune into it. It is probably one of the most strategic sport games of all time that people don't want to believe there's any strategy to. There's plenty of it.
It ain't boring.
No.
All right. That'll do it for this edition of Batter Up. We'll probably try to get one in before the end of the regular season.
Oh, yeah, usually.
And then next Sunday night, barring time, we don't know, we'll do a playoff preview. But follow us on the socials: Facebook Sports Insanity Network, Twitter SInsanity Real. Check out the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com. Great blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. YouTube, where you're watching this lovely show. Like, comment, subscribe. Do what you got to do, peeps.
Big shout out to Sweep the League and Rudy Campos.
Yeah, sweep the leg, Rudy. Sweep the leg. All right. Mark and I will be back Sunday morning with Sunday Sideline Report. Until then, have an absolutely fantastic weekend. We'll talk to you then. Have a good one, everybody.